I knew something was wrong the moment I opened my eyes and felt fabric that didn't belong to me. It was too smooth, too heavy, too strange to be my bedsheet. The air smelled different, like expensive perfume mixed with something sharp and unfamiliar. My heart jumped the second I tried to move and realized my wrists weren't tied, but the heaviness in my chest made it feel like they were. I sat up slowly, confusion tightening around my throat. The room around me wasn't mine. I had never stepped foot in this place. It was too large, too quiet, too unfamiliar to belong to anyone I knew. That alone should have terrified me, but the real fear settled in when the door opened without a knock. Two men in black stood there, expressionless, stiff, and watching me like I was some kind of assignment. One of them said, "Miss Cole, you're awake. We're expected downstairs." My name. Not, ma'am. Not, hey. They knew who I was. My pulse hammered so hard I felt it in my teeth. "Where am I?" I managed to ask, my voice tight and uneven. The taller one avoided eye contact. "Everything will be explained soon." That answer didn't calm me. It only confirmed that whatever was waiting downstairs wasn't something anyone wanted to say out loud. I stood, legs shaking slightly as I realized I was wearing a dress I had never owned. White, formal, structured in a way that didn't match anything in my closet or my taste. I touched my shoulder on instinct, feeling the smooth fabric beneath my fingers. Someone had put me in this. Someone had touched me while I was unconscious. A cold shiver ran through me. "Please," I whispered, "tell me where I am." Both men shifted uncomfortably. "You're safe," the shorter one said. "But we don't make the rules. We only follow them." Safe. The word felt like a lie someone dressed in a suit would use to make a hostage calm down. I followed because I didn't know what else to do. Every step felt like I was walking deeper into something I didn't ask for. The hallway they led me through was silent, too silent for a place with so many rooms and doors. I noticed how the guard's posture stiffened the farther we walked, as if approaching someone who terrified even them. We eventually turned into a room that looked like it belonged in a different world. Crowded but hushed, filled with people who whispered behind gloved hands and stared like I was the shocking headline of the night. None of this made sense. Not the strange dress. Not the sudden gathering. Not the way the whispers grew louder when I stepped further in. "She's the girl. That's her. I didn't think he would actually bring her." My stomach knotted painfully. I wrapped my arms around myself, wishing I could disappear back into the hallway. I stopped walking when I saw him. Damien Moretti. I had seen his face on news articles and whispered stories. The kind of man people only mentioned in low voices, the kind of name that made rivals regret picking fights. He stood at the center of the room, tall and still, his presence heavy enough that people kept a respectful distance without being told. He looked at me as if I were the only person he had been waiting for. Everything inside me tightened. His eyes were sharp, unreadable, the kind of eyes that held too many secrets and hid all of them behind an expression that never changed. He walked toward me with slow, deliberate steps. Every guest lowered their head or stepped aside instinctively. I had no choice but to stare, trapped between confusion, fear, and the strange chill running down my spine. When he finally stood in front of me, his voice was low enough that only I could hear. "You're safe, Ariana." He said my name like he'd spoken it 1,000 times. My breath caught painfully. "Safe from what?" I whispered. His jaw tightened. "Not here." Before I could insist, he touched my wrist lightly, a touch that felt more like claiming than guiding, and began to lead me forward. My steps stumbled, but he steadied me each time without letting his expression shift. I looked around, trying to understand why everyone's eyes were fixed on us with a mixture of fear and disbelief. And then I saw it. An officiant. A platform. A book. Rings. My entire body froze. "No," I breathed, shaking my head before I could form a full sentence. "No, this can't be, this is not." Damien stopped and turned to face me fully. His eyes softened by a fraction. Barely noticeable to anyone else, but unmistakable to me because I was drowning in fear. "Ariana," he said quietly, "I need you to walk with me." I shook my head again harder. "I don't understand any of this. I didn't agree to anything. Why am I here? Why am I wearing this? What are you doing to me?" His voice dropped even lower. "If you don't walk with me, you will not leave this room alive." The words were cold, but the way he said them wasn't a threat. It was a warning. "And I won't lose you again. he added under his breath, barely audible. That one word stopped me cold. What do you mean, again? I don't even know you. You don't need to understand yet, he replied, avoiding a real answer. You just need to be my wife. Panic rose inside me so fast it felt like drowning. The room shifted when another voice cut sharply through the silence. Damien, what the hell do you think you're doing? Everyone turned as Luca Moretti pushed through the crowd. He looked like the polished version of Damien, sharp suit, charming expression, dangerous eyes, but the tension rolling off him was anything but controlled. Ariana doesn't belong to you, Luca said, stepping protectively in front of me. His voice was calm, but the anger underneath it vibrated like a warning. You can't drag an innocent woman into this. Damien's expression hardened into something cold and deadly. Move. No, Luca snapped. You've lost it. This obsession has gone too far. The room held its breath as the two brothers stared each other down. I stood between them, frozen, wishing I could disappear or wake up from this nightmare. Damien spoke first. This is not your decision. And forcing her into marriage is not yours, Luca shot back. You're doing this for the wrong reasons and we both know it. Damien took a step forward. I will not let her die. That sentence silenced Luca. Silenced everyone. What did he mean? Who wanted me dead? And why did he say it like he had known this for a long time? Before I could ask, Damien's hand wrapped around mine, firm, unshakable. The officiant began speaking as if the moment had been planned down to the second. Damien responded when required, voice steady, eyes on me the entire time. Everyone watched with a mixture of shock, fear, and curiosity. I barely heard the words. My thoughts were racing too fast to catch. When it was my turn to speak, I couldn't force a sound out. Damien leaned in, voice brushing my ear. You're not alone, he whispered. Just say yes. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But I also wanted answers, and he was the only one who seemed to have them. My voice trembled. Yes. The moment the ceremony ended, a strange silence filled the room. Not applause. Not celebration. Just tension heavy enough to crush the air. People stared at me as if I had stepped willingly into the mouth of a lion. Damien lifted my hand gently, his touch unexpectedly careful, and guided me away from the crowd. I expected him to say something reassuring, something that would make sense of everything. Instead, he opened a drawer in a nearby study and handed me a stack of papers. My breath stopped. Photos of me. Notes about my routines and addresses. Dates from years ago. You've been tracking me? My voice cracked. Damien didn't look away. I've been protecting you. Why? I asked, tears burning behind my eyes. His answer came soft, almost reluctant. Because you were in danger long before today. And I was the only one who knew. He didn't elaborate. Didn't explain the 2 years of surveillance. Didn't explain why he acted like he knew me before I ever knew his name. All I knew was this. I had just married a man who had been watching me for years. And he still refused to tell me why. I didn't sleep that night. Even after the ceremony ended and the guests dispersed, even after the doors locked behind the last murmuring witness, there was no quiet inside me. Damien didn't try to speak to me again. He walked me to a spacious bedroom, said, "This is yours," and left without waiting for a response. It wasn't the arrangement I expected from a man who had just forced me into marriage. But then again, nothing about him fit the pattern of someone I could predict. The hours stretched until morning. I sat on the edge of the unfamiliar bed, staring at the window where the sunrise hovered like something from someone else's life. I watched the light crawl across the floor, wondering if the world outside knew what had happened to me, if anyone cared, or if the people who drooped their heads last night were right to stay silent. A knock sounded, soft but firm. I stiffened. "It's me," Damien said from the other side. I didn't move. He opened the door anyway. He looked different this morning. Not softer. Damien didn't seem capable of soft, but less closed off. He stood near the doorway as if entering the room required permission from someone he feared disappointing. "How are you feeling?" he asked. I laughed, a humorless, shaky breath. "You married me against my will. How do you think I'm feeling?" His gaze lowered for the briefest second, then lifted again. "I meant physically." "I'm fine physically," I said, though my body felt like a bundle of nerves. "But I want answers. Real ones." He nodded once. "Eat first. Then we talk." I'm not hungry. You didn't eat last night, he said quietly. You need strength. Wasn't controlling, not exactly. It felt more like concern he didn't know how to express without sounding like he was issuing orders. I didn't argue. I followed him to a dining room where a meal was already laid out. Not lavish, not overwhelming, just simple food I actually liked. He had paid attention to my life enough to know that. I sat stiffly, feeling his eyes on me even when he wasn't looking directly. He stood instead of sitting. A man who appeared always ready, always tense, always bracing for something unseen. When I asked who I needed protection from, I finally said, "You said not here. We're alone now." He didn't sit. He didn't step closer. He only said, "Your father." I froze. My father died when I was a child. Damien shook his head. No. He disappeared. And the people who went looking for him turned their attention to you. My breath caught. Why? Why me? He hesitated long enough for my heart to pound painfully. He took something from someone powerful. Something they believe you know the location of. That's impossible. I don't know anything. They don't believe that. His voice dropped. And they won't stop coming. I stood abruptly. You should have told me this before dragging me here. Before all of this. I tried, he said softly. More times than I should admit. But you wouldn't listen to a stranger. You would have run. You kidnapped me, I said, my voice rising in disbelief. What makes you think I wouldn't run now? He stepped forward just one step, enough that the space felt heavier. I'm asking you not to. Not because I want control. But because running will get you killed. The sincerity stunned me. Not the words themselves, but how carefully he delivered them, as if he had argued with himself before saying them out loud. It didn't erase what he'd done, but it made it harder to categorize him as simply a monster. I sat again, slowly this time, trying to process. Why me? Why bother protecting me? What am I to you? Later, he murmured, looking away. Not now. That answer tightened something in my chest. Frustration, fear, confusion. Yet before I could push further, another presence entered the room. Luca. He walked in with the confidence of someone who expected doors to open for him. Unlike Damien, he offered a smile, warm on the surface but cold underneath. Morning, Ariana, Luca said gently, as if we were old friends instead of strangers tangled in something dark. You look overwhelmed. I don't blame you. Damien's expression shifted instantly, sharp and guarded. Luca ignored him. You don't have to pretend everything is fine just because he brought you here, Luca continued. You deserve answers. Real ones. I'm asking for them, I said quietly. But I'm not getting much. Luca's jaw twitched, eyes flicking briefly toward his brother. He won't tell you everything. He never does. It's how he works. Silence first, truth never. Damien's voice cut through the room. Get out. Luca barely glanced at him. I will. As soon as she hears what she needs to hear. Luca, Damien warned. Luca smiled at me instead. He didn't tell you he's the reason your life has been watched for years, did he? That he kept you under surveillance like some kind of possession. Damien moved instantly, stepping between us, blocking Luca from coming closer. Leave. Now. Or what? Luca challenged, leaning to the side so he could see me past Damien's shoulder. He won't tell you that the danger coming for you is tied to him more than your father. He won't tell you who actually made the first threat against your life. I swallowed hard. Who? Damien's voice was low, threatening. Luca. Luca smiled thinly. Ask him later. When he can't lie anymore. The brothers stared each other down, expressions carved from years of resentment and unspoken violence. Then Luca turned and left, leaving behind a suffocating silence. I exhaled shakily. Does he always do that? No, Damien said. Only when he wants something. What does he want from me? Damien hesitated. More than he should. The answer, simple as it was, made my skin prickle. There were layers to this family I didn't understand yet, layers I wasn't sure I wanted to uncover. But the day didn't end there, not even close. Later that afternoon, while Damien was speaking with some of his men, I walked through the hallways alone, absorbing the reality that this was now my life. My footsteps echoed softly, but something about the air shifted, like the feeling of being watched. Before I could turn around, strong arms grabbed me from behind, A hand clamped over my mouth and a deep voice hissed, "Do not scream." My heart flipped. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. Someone pulled me back toward a side entrance. My instincts screamed, but the grip was too strong for me to break. I twisted, biting the hand over my mouth. The man grunted, and in the split second he loosened, I screamed Damien's name. Chaos exploded. Damien appeared like he had been waiting around the corner, gun drawn, voice like steel. "Let her go." The attacker shoved me forward, bolting down the hall as more guards tackled him. Damien reached me first, hands gripping my shoulders so tightly I thought he might break through bone. "You're not hurt?" he demanded. "No," I whispered, trembling. But he knew my name. He called me. I stopped. The nickname. The one only my late grandmother ever used. Damien's expression shifted, but not with confusion. He looked like someone who had expected this moment, dreaded it. "Who told him that?" I asked, voice cracking. How could he know something like that? His jaw clenched. "Damien," I pressed, stepping closer. Tell me who is behind this." He looked at me like the truth would break something in him. "I know who sent them," he said finally. "And you won't like the answer." My chest tightened. "Who?" Damien exhaled slowly, painfully, like the name itself was a cut. "Someone from your past." He didn't say the name. He didn't have to. Because something in his eyes told me the truth was going to change everything. Again. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the attacker repeating that childhood nickname, the one memory I thought the world had forgotten. I kept replaying Damien's expression when I asked who sent them. The way he avoided my eyes. The way his jaw tightened like he was holding back something heavy and painful. By morning I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to spend another second half understanding my own life. I wasn't going to stay in that room waiting for answers that never came. Whatever truth Damien was hiding, I needed to hear it, even if it destroyed whatever fragile sense of safety this place pretended to offer. I found him in a study at the far end of the mansion, standing beside a desk scattered with papers and folders. He was deep in thought, but he noticed me instantly, like his attention was trained to find me even before I spoke. "Good," he said quietly. "You're awake." I didn't sit. I didn't hesitate. "Take me to wherever you've been hiding the truth." His eyes froze. He didn't ask what truth. He knew exactly what I meant. After a long moment he nodded. "Follow me." He led me through the mansion, past rooms I'd never seen, down a hallway that seemed to grow colder the farther we walked. At the end was a heavy steel door. Damien pressed his palm against a scanner. The door clicked and slowly opened. A hidden vault. Inside, the lighting was dim and the air cooler. The walls were lined with boxes, documents, and files. But it wasn't the room that scared me. It was the feeling that once I stepped in, the life I thought I understood would be gone forever. Damien didn't look at me as he walked forward. He seemed different, less collected, more weighed down by something he could no longer avoid. He stopped in front of a metal table and placed a file on it. "This is where it starts," he said. I stepped closer, my pulse racing. He opened the file, revealing photos, not of me this time, but of a man I recognized only from fading memories. My father. What does he have to do with this? I whispered. Damien leaned on his hands, shoulders tense. "Your father worked for the Moretti family. Years before you were born." I blinked, struggling to process. "That's not possible. He was a teacher. A simple man." Damien shook his head. "The life he showed you wasn't the life he lived. He worked undercover for us. Until the day he stole something from my father and disappeared." I stared at the photos. My father, younger, standing beside men in suits. Him near cars with tinted windows. Him shaking hands with men who looked nothing like the quiet life he raised me in. "What did he steal?" I asked, voice shaking. Damien didn't answer right away. He closed the file slowly, almost painfully, before meeting my eyes. "Something that was never meant to be found by outsiders," he said. "Something people still believe you know how to locate." "I don't know anything," I said firmly. "I know that." Damien's gaze softened, a flicker of something human breaking through the mask he always wore. "But they don't. And they won't stop until they get what they want." "Who are they?" I whispered. His voice lowered. "The same people who killed your father." My breath caught. The world blurred for a moment. "Killed? You said he disappeared." "He tried to run." They found him before we did. I felt the ground shift beneath me. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Because I wanted to protect you from the truth, he said. And because I wasn't ready to admit my part in it. I swallowed hard. Your part. Damien looked away, jaw tight. I was supposed to protect him. But I was too late. And the last thing he said before he died was your name. Those words hit me like a blow. Why, a name? He nodded. He begged me to protect you. To keep you hidden. To make sure they never found you. My throat tightened painfully. Then why the surveillance? Why the cameras? Why all of this? Damien exhaled, the breath uneven. Because someone else was looking for you too. Before I could ask who, the vault door swung open with a heavy metallic thud. Luca stepped inside. Damien's entire posture shifted, going rigid, cold, dangerous. You weren't invited. Luca ignored him completely. His eyes settled on me with a calmness that didn't match the tension in the room. Now you see what he didn't want you to know, Luca said softly. Everything he hides. Everything he twists. I didn't twist anything, Damien snapped. Yes you did, Luca replied. Because you still haven't told her the part that matters most. I stepped back instinctively. What part? Luca's expression changed. The false charm slipped. What remained was sharper, more honest, and far more frightening. He didn't tell you that I was the one who found the first threat against your life. I froze. Damien moved between us instantly. Don't start. Oh, I'll finish, Luca said, stepping forward. Ariana, the people who killed your father contacted me first. I came to Damien because I thought he'd do the right thing. Protect you. But instead he became obsessed. He watched you. Followed you. Tried to make you his secret. That's not true, Damien snarled. It is, Luca pressed. And you know it. You didn't protect her. You claimed her. Enough, Damien snapped, grabbing his brother's shirt. Luca didn't flinch. You married her not to save her but to keep her. My heart clenched painfully. Is that true? I asked Damien. Damien released Luca and turned toward me, eyes filled with something I couldn't read. Fear, regret, desperation. I married you because it was the only way to keep you safe, he said. If you stayed on your own, they would have reached you first. And what about your obsession? Luca said mockingly. Tell her you've been in love with her for years. Go on. Damien's jaw stiffened. He didn't deny it. Luca's smile turned cold. He knows where the thing your father stole is. He's known all along. I stiffened. You know where it is? Damien hesitated. That was answer enough. Luca moved faster than I expected. He grabbed my arm, pulling me behind him. Damien lunged, but Luca lifted a gun, aiming it at his brother's chest. Move again and I'll shoot. Damien froze, fury trembling beneath the surface. What are you doing? I whispered. Ending what should have ended years ago, Luca said. You're coming with me. With you, I can force him to hand over everything. Let her go, Damien said, voice dangerous and deadly. Luca tightened his grip. I warned you this would happen. The moment blurred. Luca dragged me back toward the door. Damien moved. There was shouting, the sound of bodies colliding, the struggle for the gun. I fell against the wall. The gun fired. The sound cracked through the vault. When the chaos settled, Damien was on the ground, blood seeping from his side. Damien! I screamed, dropping beside him. Luca backed away, breathing heavily, eyes wide, not with regret but with shock that he hadn't killed him. This isn't over, he said, backing out of the vault. He disappeared. Everything after that happened fast. Guards rushed in. Damien was lifted, half-conscious, muttering my name. Hours blurred. I didn't leave his side. When he finally woke, groggy but alive, he handed me something wrapped in cloth. Your father's secret, he whispered. I unwrapped it slowly. A marriage contract. My name already written beside Damien's. Dated years before I met him. What is this? I whispered. He swallowed hard. Your father didn't steal money. He didn't steal documents. He stole this. He made me promise to marry you because he knew you'd be hunted. This was the only way he believed you'd be protected. My pulse hammered. You kept this from me. Because I didn't want you to feel trapped, he said. Not by him. Not by me. Tears burned my eyes, not from fear, but from realizing the truth had been tangled long before I ever stepped into the Moretti world. He wasn't just obsessed. He was fulfilling a promise he'd carried alone for years. And he loved me long before I ever knew he existed.